Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Sports Mole's Football Shorts. I'm Barney Corkhill and with our football editor Matt Law. I'm here to talk about our game week 25 predictions for the Premier League season. It's a great game week ahead, lots of great games, really intriguing ones, starting tonight actually with Wolves versus Leeds. I think if you were to pick a match, Matt, which is probably the hardest to call and could make the biggest fools of us, this would be right up there at the top. I don't really have a clue what's going to happen. I've gone back and forth on my prediction, but how do you see this one going?
Yeah, it literally is the perfect, like say, the idea of a game where you think, or like you literally, and I did the preview for this the other day and was really, really struggling. There's a few reasons why I've picked the score I have. I just think, obviously, Wolves recently have been. I mean, it has been a strange season for Wolves, isn't it? We talk about there are a lot of criticism recently. Obviously, they picked up a huge win over Southampton last time out. Obviously, lost in the FA Cup, but the changes we were speaking about that Nuno made obviously brought his big players back in, and it paid off because the Premier League is more important than the FA. I know I said it's a good chance to reach a semi-final of the FA Cup, but the league form is more important. And Wolves were, I said it wouldn't be that, they weren't that far away from 17th, were they, when they went on a poor run, and that will be a terrible season for them. I mean, up in 12th now, it's so tight up there. You're looking at where obviously Leeds are in the table, just above them, 2 points above them, Leeds, but Leeds have got a game in hand. So I think both of these sides, Leeds obviously coming back off the back of the Arsenal game 4-2. They lost, didn't they? 4-0 down and scored twice late on. And it was the typical performance of Bielsa's side against a big club where they give them loads of space. And that, I suppose that is the criticism, isn't it, of Leeds. They will win loads of games. I mean, they've won 10 games this season. We said that's one fewer than Liverpool. So if you'd have said that at this stage, same as Tottenham, same as Arsenal, Leeds. So, but they have lost 11 times, which is an awful lot for considering where they are in the league. It's actually the same as Fulham this season. Leeds have lost the same as Fulham, which is a big surprise. And yeah, like you say, it's a tough game. I think obviously team selection for this game is always important. Wolves' injury situation is not too bad at the moment. Obviously Jimenez is out still, Bolly, Podence, but Traore, Willian, Jose, they're okay. Macau and Fabio Silva were on the bench last time out. They could come in. Leeds have got Diego Llorente back, which is big for them, but they're missing Calvin Phillips among a host of others, which obviously missing Phillips is big for Leeds. And yeah, I mean, Rafinha and Bamford, two players we spoke about. I mean, we spoke about Rafinha a few weeks ago, and since then he's been linked, hasn't he, with Liverpool and Manchester United, which doesn't surprise me. But yeah, two teams that obviously like to get the ball down and play. It'll be an open game. Went back and forth, which I'm sure you did, but just settled on Wolves in the end. I just think their recent form, they've been much improved. They've got players in good form. Moutinho and Neves have improved recently, and I just think they'll have enough to win this one. Wolves have gone 2-1. Wolves.
Yeah, that's what I've gone for as well. After much deliberation, I think, I mean, Wolves up until recently, up until the start of February, really were just in really poor form, weren't they? But that win over Arsenal obviously ended that game with 9 men. A good draw with the high-flying Leicester side and a good win away to Southampton should have got their confidence back and should have got them back in the groove a little bit after what was a really poor run of form, which saw them sink down the table. And it is just that recent form, the beginnings of a little bit more consistency from them, which is making me side with them. Originally, up until just before coming on, really, I was toying with the idea of 1-1 in this one, but Leeds don't really draw that many games because of their style, because they're going all out for the victory, which can often end up leaving space for them to go and lose. At the other end, so don't draw so many games. So that's why ultimately I went for Wolves ahead of the draw in this one. But equally, you wouldn't be surprised to see Leeds go and win this one. They've won 6 away games this season. I think only 4 teams have won more games away from home in the league. But by the same token, they've also lost some away games pretty heavily against Crystal Palace. Obviously conceded 6 against Man United, 4 against Crystal Palace, 3 against Chelsea, 3 against Tottenham and 4 against Arsenal. So they're conceding a lot of goals. In general, I think it's West Brom are the only team who have conceded more goals in the league this season than Leeds. So they're just one of those teams. They're capable of winning. We've said it many times. They're capable of winning pretty much any fixture in the league this season, but they're also capable of losing any fixture. And yeah, this is, as I say, this is probably one of those which you'd throw darts at the board and probably have a better chance of coming out with the correct result than if we're trying to predict it. But I think we'll both somehow come up with the same scoreline with that one. Wolves to win this one 2-1, but it really could go either way, that one. On Saturday, we kick off with Southampton versus Chelsea. Chelsea continue their magnificent start under the new manager with the 2-0 win over Newcastle last time out. Southampton, by contrast, are in really poor form. 6 Premier League defeats in a row it is now. There is an FA Cup win over Wolves in that run, but in the Premier League, it's 6 defeats in a row, which is really, really poor for them. They need to find a victory from somewhere. Do you see it coming in this game, Matt?
No, I don't. No, I don't. I've gone Chelsea here. Southampton, obviously, like you say, will be, desperate since the Liverpool game, isn't it? Since Liverpool win start
Mm.
of January, that was the last time they've won, and since then, as you say, the defeats have just been piling up. Since losing 9-0 to United, they've not been managing to bounce back. Have they lost at Newcastle, lost at home to Wolves, as you mentioned, beat them in the cup, but Premier League is so important. And I was talking about, Wolves maybe finishing in that 17th place if, obviously it looks like the bottom three. I mean, Fulham have got a chance to stay up. It looks like that might probably be the bottom three. And Southampton now sitting in 13th. They're only 4 points above Newcastle in 17th. It's incredible. You thought that, the end of 2020, they were, in a good shout for Europa League space, top six, top seven, even a top 10 finish this season would have been great. But it's difficult to see that now. You talk about the teams above them. Obviously, they're only 5 points off Arsenal in 10th, but and I've got a game in hand, so things can change. But they've got some interesting games. That they go to Leeds after this, Southampton. So I mean, this is a really tough one. Obviously, Chelsea recently they're looking for their 6th straight win in all competitions, but it's a really big period, isn't it, for Chelsea? They play Atletico Madrid in the Champions League next week, and then Manchester United in the Premier League next weekend. So if they could win, I mean, it's going to be very, very tough to win all 3 of those games, but get through that period with good performances again. I mean, Thomas Tuchel, Thiago Silva trained yesterday, didn't he? I mean, Thomas Tuchel's press conference, I think it's this afternoon, so we're going to be filming this before he confirms whether Thiago Silva will play. But even though he's trained, you fancy he might be in the squad for this game, but probably on the bench. They've got some big games coming up. Obviously, Tammy Abraham picked up an ankle injury against Newcastle, so probably Giroud will come in. Thomas Tuchel said that he's not really going to have Werner playing that centre forward role. He sees Werner more as a player operating in behind, with Mount. So it looks like, Ziyech, Pulisic, players like that will be on the bench again. Will Kante come back in? Kante struggling for starts at the moment, isn't he, in the Premier League? He's Kovacic and Jorginho. It looks like they'll go again. Obviously, the wing backs, Reece James, Chilwell, Alonso, and Hudson-Odoi's played there as well. So team selection will be very interesting for this game. Southampton. I mean, Southampton got a lot of their big players back now. They had injury problems, don't they? Obviously, Kyle Walker-Peters is facing a period out. I think Diallo and Walcott are also out of this game, but they should really. I mean, they've got Ings, Chad Adams. You fancy will come back in. Ward-Prowse. They've got quality, and you fancy they'll turn at some point, and they're capable of picking up big results against the big teams. But I just don't see it here. I think Chelsea, they're solid defensively. They're on a bit of a roll at the moment, and when you are on a roll, you've got momentum. I just think, I think they'll win again, 1-0 Chelsea.
Yeah, I've gone Chelsea. I've gone 2-1 to Chelsea in this one. They are just winning games. They're not really performing that well. They're not blowing teams away. You wouldn't, put them on the same level as Man City's performances, even though their winning run is so good. As you say, 5 in a row in all competitions. But they're not blowing teams away. They're sort of scraping games, and I'm seeing games out in routine and solid fashion, which is, arguably even more impressive for Thomas Tuchel to be doing that so soon after taking over. Obviously, for much of Frank Lampard's reign, there was questions over the defence. Were they too open at times? I think Thomas Tuchel's just come in straight away and almost solved that straight away, which was probably the biggest thing to solve. He knows he's got attacking talent, throughout the squad. You mentioned some of the players who aren't getting in the team there. That just goes to show their strength in depth throughout the team, not just in the attacking areas. Their strength and depth through the whole squad is fantastic, right up there with anyone else in the league. Chelsea, after their spending last summer. So they've got those players, and I think Thomas Tuchel bringing some of those other players back in from the cold, the likes of Marcos Alonso, Cesar Azpilicueta wasn't getting many starts before Thomas Tuchel came in. Players like that, giving them another chance, and they're starting to prove themselves. Just gives Chelsea so many options. And the big headache for him is trying to keep everyone happy now, keep everyone in the side, give them enough football while carrying on winning games. Obviously, he has kept on winning games so far. I see that continuing here with a 2-1 win. But yeah, it is looking promising for Chelsea. As I say, their performances aren't blowing anyone away, but I think they've got a very solid base, and I think they'll be pretty confident of improving even further, improving those performances while obviously keeping those results coming. And considering they're already up in 4th place, which is a big turnaround from when Thomas Tuchel came, that'll be very promising for Chelsea side in terms of their hopes of getting into the Champions League again next season. For Southampton, 6 defeats in a row. And to be honest, looking ahead, we're going to do the Leeds game later in this podcast as well, their game in hand on Tuesday. But I can't see them getting a win here. And looking ahead, it's difficult to say. Well, they've certainly got 2 difficult games coming up, away to Leeds and away to Everton. You wouldn't put it past them winning those ones. But it's also not inconceivable for that losing run to stretch to 7, 8, 9 games, which is really, really poor. And then you would start looking at them down towards the 17th place and things like that, which would be, so disappointing for a team who started the campaign so well. Obviously, that 9-0 gets mentioned all the time, and the 9-0 last season gets mentioned all the time. It took them a while to bounce back from that one. Might take them a while to bounce back from this one. You fancy they will, because they've got the players, they've got the manager. I know you're a big fan of Ralph Hasenhüttl as well. You fancy they do have the tools in place to turn it around, but in the next week or so, it's difficult to see where that is going to happen. Starting with Chelsea, and we're both back in Chelsea wins here. On Saturday at 3 p.m, we've got Burnley versus West Brom, a big game towards the bottom of the table. Burnley up to 15th now, having taken 4 points in the last week with that win over Crystal Palace and the draw with Fulham. West Brom drew with Manchester United last time out, a huge result for them that was, but they're still 12 points adrift of safety, so they need to start picking up those victories. This on paper looks like one of the decent chances they would have earmarked against a club like Burnley, but do you see them getting anything out of this game?
It's a tough one, isn't it? Like you say, it's I think Sam Allardyce came out and said in his press conference that they're in probably must-win situation now for most games, which is for West Brom, that's very difficult. I mean, I thought West Brom against United, unfortunately, speaking from a United point of view, I thought they were excellent. West Brom in that game, they obviously took the lead with Diagne early on, who was far too big, far too strong for Lindelof, and United obviously equalised a good goal from Fernandes, but second half, West Brom, I mean, they didn't have a lot of the ball, let's be honest, but they had some really big chances, didn't they? Obviously, I think the quality's improved. I said I've been quite critical of the quality there, but the signings they've made, Jokaslu in midfield, Maitland-Niles, I really like Conor Gallagher. I think he's a really good player. That the quality from January has improved. They've got a striker now who looks like he missed some big chances. He had a couple, and he had that one, didn't he, where they thought it might have been a foul on Maguire, and then he didn't go for the header, and De Gea managed to save it. So he's a threat. He's going to be a threat, I think, for the rest of the season. And like I say, if West Brom had played like they did against United for most of the season, then they probably wouldn't be where they are. But as you mentioned, it's 12 points to Newcastle. And I mean, you're relying on Newcastle, losing the majority of their games, and West Brom, winning an awful lot. And when you think about it, they've won twice all season, lost 15 games, lost 15 to 24. It's very difficult to see them getting out of it. But yeah, Burnley, on the other hand, as you mentioned, there was a few, I think when they lost a little bit of a bad run, didn't they? There was a few hints of maybe they could get dragged into it when I think they drew at Brighton, didn't they? And then they lost to Bournemouth in the Cup, which the confidence wasn't great. But to go and win 3-0 at Palace, which they did last weekend, was excellent. And then to stop Fulham from winning, I don't think Fulham were good against Burnley on Wednesday, wasn't it? But Burnley fought back and managed to get a point. I think that's a decent point considering, as you say, they're up in 15th now and look like they're gonna. They'll probably be looking up the table, only 3 points off Wolves at this stage, so looking up rather than down. But yeah, another game where you fancy West Brom will be pretty similar to the team that played United. Obviously, Furlong might come into the back. I think Liv Peltier looks like he's going to be injured, but Burnley's still waiting on Chris Wood. Goodmanson and Brady are both out. Stevens and Peters are out as well. But Ben Mee and Vidra are back. Obviously, having Ben Mee back is really important for Burnley. And yeah, you fancy it'll be a tight game. Rodriguez, Barnes probably front two for Burnley, and McNeil obviously out wide. But yeah, it's a tough game, and I'd find it difficult to back West Brom to get stuff, but I think that how well they played against United and the quality has improved since January. I couldn't back them to win here though, but I have backed them to get a point. I think it's got 1-1 written all over it.
Yeah, I think it's got Burnley written 1-0 all over it, to be honest. I think obviously this isn't a fixture which screams out goals. They're two of the lowest scorers in the division. West Brom, they are capable of those performances. As you say, against Man United, they were good. But if you go back to, maybe their draw against Liverpool, they were good in that game. You look at the following game, though, they lose 5-0 to Leeds. So it's sustaining that. And as you say, every game's in must-win territory, but they've won 2 games all season, and which is fewer than anyone else. And when you consider that the team they're trying to catch, Newcastle, have won 7 games, that's a huge difference in terms of wins straight away off the bat. So in 14 games to try and make up that gap is just a huge ask for them, and it probably is too little too late. Having said that, the next 3 games will be huge for them. I think away to Burnley, then at home against Brighton, then at home against Newcastle, and then even away to Crystal Palace after that. Those are 4 fixtures they'll point out as being potentially winnable, certainly more winnable than the last 2 they've had against Tottenham and Manchester United. So if they can pick up 2 or 3 wins in there, maybe they'll give themselves a little bit of hope, but they have left themselves an awfully big mountain to climb. It is difficult to back them to win any game this season because they've struggled so much for wins, and Burnley have been far from consistent, but they have been capable of picking up those wins. It could be similar to the Fulham game last time out, where it did end up in a 1-1, but I'm just backing Burnley to get this. I think they've got the firepower. I think also they certainly won't be feeling they're out of the woods yet. They're still 13 points off that magic 40-point mark. Fulham's recent improvement means that the gap to danger's 8 points, which is by no means safe in this season. So they'll still be thinking the job. They've still got a job to do, and with Tottenham, Arsenal, and Everton coming up in their next 3 league games, they'll see this game as a really good chance to pick up 3 valuable points to edge closer to safety. So yeah, I'm backing them to do that 1-0. Saturday, one of many derbies this weekend, the Merseyside derby between Liverpool and Everton at 5:30 p.m. Liverpool got a much-needed return to winning ways against RB Leipzig in the Champions League. A really impressive performance and a good return to winning ways. I think Liverpool certainly needed that. The clean sheet they needed, the manner of the performance they needed. And they're taking on an Everton team who have had a pretty miserable week so far, losing at home to Fulham, then losing at home to Manchester City. Obviously, no shame in the latter result, but they would have been really disappointed by the game against Fulham. Their home form has actually been dreadful recently. I think it's only 1 point from 5 games since the turn of the year at home. Obviously, this is coming away from home, the short trip across Stanley Park to Anfield, where Everton have been much, much better away from home. 7 league games unbeaten. They've won 5 of those away from home, and a victory here would take them level on points with Liverpool, having played a game fewer. So there's a big carrot dangling in front of them here that they'll be desperate to take hold of. But Liverpool, obviously, their top 4 hopes are in the balance now, having dropped down to 6th place through that defeat to Leicester last time out. I think with Liverpool, obviously 3 league defeats in a row, their league form is really poor at the moment. I think only once in their history have they ever lost 4 league games in a row. So that goes to show, 4 home league games in a row, which they could do here. 4 league games in a row, I think was 2002 the last time they did that, home or away. So it goes to show how poor their current form is, and the drop-off, particularly at home, has just been incredible. No one really could have seen that coming after 68 games unbeaten at home in the league, to have lost 3 in a row. It's just incredible. No wins in the last 5 either. No wins so far this calendar year at Anfield is incredible. But yeah, their top 4 hopes really hang in the balance now. 2 points off 4th place, dropping off. They'll see this match as a match they really need to win to get back in amongst that top 4, back in the Champions League places. Obviously, their fate is in the hands somewhat of Chelsea and West Ham and how they get on as well. But they need to get back to winning ways sooner rather than later. And luckily for them, they've got a great record against Everton. They don't lose against Everton. Most of the games recently have been draws, but it's 1999 was the last time Everton won at Anfield, which is incredible. 2010 was the last time they beat Liverpool in any derby. So that's the longest winless run Everton have ever had, longest unbeaten run Liverpool have ever had against a single opponent. So on paper, this looks like a good fixture. Everton have obviously got all the quality to cause them problems. Dominic Calvert-Lewin should be back for this one, which will be big for them. And the reverse fixture was obviously that controversial 2-2 draw with Van Dijk and Pickford, Thiago getting injured, Richarlison's red card, the disallowed winner for Henderson late on. So lots of talking points from that reverse fixture. I'm expecting another entertaining game, but Liverpool's record against Everton, their performance against RB Leipzig, and that result, and to be honest, even their performances against Man City and Leicester, and I know a lot was made of those 2 defeats and how damaging they were, but for the vast majority of that Leicester game, they were the better team until the collapse. They matched Man City for the vast majority of that game before the collapse, and those collapses came via uncharacteristic errors, which you won't expect to be the case in every game. So you'd expect them to cut them out soon. As soon as they do, their performances should shine through a bit more in the results, and I expect that to happen this time. So yeah, I'm going for a 2-1 Liverpool win in this one.
2-1, yeah, I've gone exactly the same. 2-1 Liverpool, unfortunately. If Liverpool would have entered this game off the back of the Leicester defeat, I probably would have gone a draw. I just think the performance against Leipzig, as you say, a good Leipzig side, they knocked United out of the Champions League, didn't they? Finishing above them in the group, and obviously a side that's got a lot of quality, and to go and win that way, Liverpool played well in that game. And as you mentioned, the Leicester game, I mean, Liverpool could have been, not out of sight, but a couple of goals up, couldn't they, really, by the time Salah actually scored at King Power Stadium, and then obviously the Maddison goal, that VAR, and then defensive errors late on handed Leicester a win that they really didn't really look like they were going to get for long stages. They were struggling for quite a long part of that, Leicester, and obviously great for them, but poor for Liverpool. And yeah, I just think the win over Leipzig in the Champions League was a really, really big one. Obviously puts them in a great position to reach the next round of the competition, but also gives their confidence, a big boost, as you say, after three Premier League defeats, which is, I mean, you're looking down the table as well. It's incredible to think, Tottenham, their struggles this season, they're only 4 points behind Liverpool with a game in hand. Obviously, Villa have got games in hand. Really in a top 4 battle, Liverpool. But you could say that I still think United are in a top 4 battle. They're only 4 points above West Ham, 4 points above Chelsea. I still think, obviously, City will win the league and finish top 4. But I really do think everyone else is, in a battle, and it could be, Chelsea are in good form, but they could lose a couple and be out of it. As you say, Liverpool, Everton. And, Everton's form, as you say, the fact that they've won at Anfield for so long, 2010, the last time they beat Liverpool. Last 2 have been draws, haven't they? 2-2, as you mentioned. But those have been both at Goodison Park. So it was 5-2 last season, wasn't it? Liverpool, Everton at Anfield in the Premier League. So, it's very difficult to back Everton. I think as you mentioned, the City, I didn't think they were very good at City against City at all, to be honest, as good as Manchester City are. I thought Everton didn't really offer too much. That obviously losing at home to Fulham was the big one, to go, and Fulham were excellent in that game. But I still think they've got those results in them, Everton. I mean, they were poor at Old Trafford for long stages of that game, but a quick fire double after half time put them 2-2, and then they scored late on to get a point and obviously beat Tottenham in the cup. But I still think they've got, as I say, little periods in them like this, and obviously it's a huge game. And I was very close, as I say, if Liverpool hadn't been in Champions League action, I'm probably going to draw here. But obviously Everton have played again, not had time to recover, actually had fewer time to recover than Liverpool, even though Liverpool played Champions League. So tight game. I think it will be tight, and hopefully there's a lot of incidents as these derbies tend to bring. But yeah, same as you, 2-1 Liverpool.
Yeah, I did the preview for that one, and one of the stats which surprised me, even though Liverpool have obviously been in such poor form, but they've already lost as many league games this calendar year as they did in 2019 and 2020 combined, which is incredible. They've played 8 league games this year, and lost 5 of them, whereas I think it was 72 league games across those 2 years and lost 5 of those. So the downturn has been dramatic. But yeah, we're both back in Liverpool to return to winning ways domestically in the derby. Also on Saturday at 8 p.m. is another game towards the bottom of the table. 2 teams in the relegation zone going head-to-head. Fulham against Sheffield United. We mentioned Fulham briefly in their recent improvement. They've closed the gap to safety now down to 6 points with that, largely thanks to that win at Everton. And then a draw at Burnley in midweek helped edge them that little bit closer. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, as you say, it's a huge game. You mentioned Fulham's improved form. Only lost 1 of their last 6 in the league, which is really good. As you mentioned, the 2-0 win over Everton. Josh Maja, double, a player that I picked out. I'm surprised West Ham didn't go for him on loan, which he is at this stage. I thought he was excellent. They'd have been obviously looking to go and then win at Burnley, and they're really good for long stages of that game. Obviously, Olarina put them ahead, didn't they? But Burnley answered back through Ashley Barnes, and a draw. It's just not good enough for Fulham at this stage. I do think if a team is going to get out of it, it will be Fulham. Not just because they're obviously 6 points above West Brom, but the gap's 6 points. And Newcastle play Manchester United this weekend, and you'd hope United will win that game. And as you say, Fulham win this game, the gap is suddenly 3. And as we know, Newcastle can go through spells, and Callum Wilson being out for Newcastle. I do think Fulham have a chance. I still think they've only lost, as I say, they lost 11 games this season, which is not a lot for where they are. I'm talking about West Brom lost 15, Sheffield United 19, but just not enough wins. 3 wins from 24. I think they've improved so much, haven't they, as you mentioned last week, from the start of the season. But Fulham they've got some big games coming up, haven't they? They play Liverpool and Manchester City in 2 of the next 3 after this game. So I do think this is, you say that Burnley was a must win. I do think this really is a must win for Fulham, and huge game. As you mentioned, Sheffield United, obviously, they're not mathematically down, far from it, but 14 points from safety of 17th and 11 points all season. Improved, haven't they, in recent weeks? Obviously still in the FA Cup as well. They play Chelsea, don't they? But it's incredible to think they finished 9th last season, isn't it? And that was them falling off, wasn't it? Falling off. They were in and around the top 6, top 7, finished 9th. Fantastic season. But they have got proof. They won at Old Trafford, didn't they, recently? Their away form this season has not been good, but picked up an excellent win over Manchester United, showing that they are capable of picking up wins on the road. But their performance against West Ham last time out was really disappointing. It was comfortable for West Ham, 3-0, and they play Liverpool next, Sheffield United, don't they, at home? So, like Fulham, got some tough games coming up, and I've just gone Fulham here. Fulham 1-0. I do think Fulham have been much better. I think they can cause Sheffield United problems. They've got players, like Loftus-Cheek, who's been in really good form. And I do think Sheffield United, I think the defeat to West Ham really took the wind out of them, because I thought they thought before they'd been going to win this game, then go and beat Fulham, we right in the mix at this stage. But the defeat to West Ham is really disappointing, and I just think Fulham are playing quite well at the moment, so I think they'll win this 1-0.
Yeah, exactly the same for exactly the same reasons. I think that defeat to West Ham last time out really would have knocked the stuffing out of them, because they, as you said, I think at times we said of the bottom three at Sheffield United in the best form, and those wins over United, the win over West Brom, the win over Newcastle, all in the space of a few weeks would have really given them a little bit of confidence, a glimmer of hope at least, that they might escape it and pull off, what would have been the greatest of escapes after such a poor start to the season. And even the games they didn't win in that period, they put up a fight against Tottenham. They only narrowly lost to Man City, only narrowly lost to Chelsea. So those are big teams that they were holding their own against. So coming into this Fulham game, they would have been pretty confident until that 3-0 defeat against West Ham when they were second best, leaves them 14 points from safety with 14 games remaining. Obviously a huge ask. And I think, that West Ham defeat and the manner of it would have just made them think, all right, this is probably too big an ask. Now, if they'd won that game and then won this game, maybe. But yeah, I think the manner of that defeat against West Ham probably was the final nail in the coffin for them and ended any last hope. Whereas I think, you're coming into a game off the back of that as a Sheffield United player, you're going to be quite deflated. For Fulham, suddenly you're starting to think, all right, this gap is a lot more achievable than it was a few weeks ago. And as you mentioned, results go for them this weekend, and probably the favourite, if you're a betting man, you're going to put the bet on Fulham to win this game and Newcastle to win their game. So the odds are in favour of that gap getting closed down to 3 points, which is, certainly assailable for Fulham. And even though they've only won 3 games all season, that 3-point gap, they'll consider that certainly breachable, and their hopes of surviving, if they can do that this weekend, if results go their way in the Newcastle Man United game, their hopes of surviving would go through the roof, I think. And obviously that depends on them holding up their end of the bargain in this game, which is why it is such an important game. I think it is a must-win game for them. And then against Crystal Palace after this, away from home, is another big game for them, which they'll consider winnable. But if they can get this victory under their belt, it'll be huge for them, huge for their survival hopes. And that not many people were giving them much of a chance, even a couple of weeks ago, certainly earlier in the season. So it is a huge game, probably their biggest game of the season so far. And if they pick up a win here, which both of us expect them to do, then their survival hopes, get a huge boost depending on what happens in the Newcastle game. And we will come to that Newcastle game later on Sunday, but starting the action on Sunday is a huge London derby between West Ham and Tottenham. I think West Ham will be licking their lips at this one. They'll be really looking forward to this game. The form they're in, a chance to get one over, probably who they regard as their biggest rival, certainly in the Premier League, with not playing Millwall very often, but Tottenham would be their biggest rivals they come up against regularly. 3-0, as we just mentioned, against Sheffield United in their last outing, followed a bit of a disappointing goalless draw against Fulham before that in their last league game. But recently in the league, they have been in really good form. Since before Christmas, they've only lost 1 game, and that was against Liverpool. And they're up in 5th place now, only outside the top 4 on goal difference. It's just been an incredible season for them. David Moyes deserves huge credit for that. I think, to be fair, the lack of fans has probably helped West Ham more than anyone else, certainly in terms of their home form. And when you compare their current form with Tottenham's form, 4 defeats in the last 5 Premier League games, obviously well beaten by Man City last time out, also lost to Chelsea, Tottenham and Liverpool in that run. Sorry, Chelsea, Brighton and Liverpool in that run. It's just a really poor run, and that's seen them slip down to 9th place. So a lot of people will be backing West Ham as favourites in this game, and I think I'm one of them. I think the way they're playing, obviously Tottenham have got those players. They've got Kane and Son. Kane sounds like should be fit for this game after sitting out in the Europa League in midweek, and they've got those players to win pretty much any fixture in the league this season. But in terms of the form book, in terms of the league table, this points to a West Ham win, and these games can often be pretty entertaining. I can see another one. I've gone out there with a 3-2 West Ham win.
3-2, yeah. I can see we come from. I expect goals as well in this one. I've actually gone a draw. I've gone 2-2. As you say, expecting a good game. It was a good game early this season, wasn't it? Tottenham was 3-0 up, weren't they, after 16 minutes, and then a late show from West Ham, including that great strike, wasn't it, from Lanzini in the latter stages of that game to draw 3-3. And as you mentioned, it's such a big game. They're always big games, but West Ham obviously where they are. They're going, I mean, they finished 7th, didn't they, in 2015-16 West Ham. So if they could match that, I know some of the fans are talking about top 4. And I mean, they're level on points with Chelsea. Just say they're 4 points behind United in second, which is remarkable when you think, I know Manchester United recently have had some disappointing results, but for West Ham to be that close in the table, and obviously you talk about Kane being back, obviously Antonio looks like he might be okay for West Ham, which obviously they won well, as you say, against Sheffield United without him, with Bowen playing through the middle. But if they can get Antonio, even on the bench, a stage in this game, especially against Tottenham's defence, which, as we know, has been very, very disappointing. As you mentioned, I thought they were well beaten, and Manchester City, Tottenham just nowhere near good enough. Good Europa League win, to be fair, wasn't it, during on Thursday evening? And I think good in the sense that obviously Bale was on the score sheet, Lucas Moura, and good performances elsewhere. But like you say, the league form, I mean, it can change so quickly, as we know. Tottenham are down in 9th, as you say, but they win this game, they go 3 points within West Ham, right in the mix. But if West Ham was to win this game, they really put a dagger really in Tottenham's chances of finishing in that top 4. And I don't think Tottenham are good enough to finish in top 4. Same reason I don't think West Ham are good enough, but I do think West Ham will be looking for top 6 this season, which would be, I think, remarkable considering the teams that they'd have to finish above to get there. But yeah, they're always important, aren't they, these games? I think from Tottenham's point of view, if Tottenham win this game, then they've got a couple of nice Premier League games after this. They play Burnley and Palace at home, and then they play Arsenal away. So, but similarly with West Ham, as we know, their forms this season have been excellent, but they go to Manchester City after this. So a defeat here, defeat next time out, they could drop down the table. But a good result here, and a point against Manchester City leads them into West Ham's fixtures coming up even after that. They played Manchester United and Arsenal middle of March, towards the end of March. So very, very tough period for West Ham, but they've shown this season they can be combative. They can win games lots of ways. Jesse Lingard's in really good form. And as you say, it's going to be an interesting game. I can see where you're coming from, going 3-2. It'll be 0-0 probably now, won't it? But yeah, no, I think it'll be a good game, as you say. And yeah, 2-2 here.
2-2 for Matt in that one. Also on Sunday, there's Aston Villa versus Leicester. Another one of those games between two teams who play decent football. Leicester obviously flying high, 3rd place in the table, level on points for 2nd place. Manchester United last time out after that win over Liverpool last weekend. They drew in Europa League action in midweek, 0-0 against Slavia Prague. Aston Villa drew with Brighton last time out, another goalless draw for them in that game where they really needed Emiliano Martinez in great form, making 9 saves, I think it was, in a man of match display. They probably deserved to lose that game, but managed to get away with a point. It's an intriguing game, Matt. How do you see it going?
Yeah, very, very interesting one, isn't it? One of those ones that obviously stands out, but for the reason that it's probably one of those ones that's very, very difficult to pick. You tend to back Leicester to win, so I think you'll go Leicester here, but I've actually gone to draw 1-1. Leicester obviously have had fewer time to prepare for this, as you say, Europa League, and it was a strong side, wasn't it, that Brendan Rodgers set out, puts them in a good position to reach the next round. As you say, Villa on the other hand, I think the draw at Brighton was, I mean, it's not a terrible result because, as we know, Brighton can be difficult to beat, but I thought they'd go and win there. I just thought they'd show a bit more, especially after beating Arsenal the week before. I thought they'd have enough to go and win that game and put themselves in a really good position. As you mentioned, Leicester up in 4th, but up in 3rd, sorry. But as I say, I think they're very much in a battle for the top 4, as I said, everyone else is apart from City. Villa in the table still played, they need to get their games in hands played, don't they? I think obviously Villa is not ideal, as good as it is saying you got games in hand, you want the games on the board, the points on the board. Obviously sitting down in 8th, they're 6 points off the top 4, but with 2 games in hand, so their goal difference is pretty good as well, Villa as well, so they win both the games in hand and they're very much in there. And similarly to West Ham, really, I think they're top. It's very difficult to say like top 6, top 7, because that relies you're probably going to have to finish, above Arsenal and Tottenham, which would be very, very impressive, very difficult at the same time. But top 10 even for this team will be excellent for Villa. But yeah, very, very tough game to predict this one. As you mentioned, a Sunday afternoon game, it should be. This is one of those ones, at Villa Park would be great, I think, for the fans. And it only gets 2 sides that like to play good football. And it'd be interesting to see whether Leicester let Villa have loads of the ball and Leicester play their counter-attacking style, or whether Leicester tried to take the game to Villa, because Leicester let Liverpool have a lot of the ball last week and they were poor for long stages but ended up winning the game. So yeah, Leicester excellent result last time against Liverpool. So very tough game, but yeah, 1-1 here.
I've actually gone the same, mainly because Leicester have been in Europa League action, and often we can see that a little bit of a hangover particularly really for the clubs who maybe aren't used to playing European football, season in, season out, while Leicester could certainly fall under that umbrella. So yeah, I think if Leicester had come into this one straight off the back of that 3-1 win over Liverpool, I'd probably back them to come away with a win. Aston Villa are capable of winning these games, but also capable of losing games pretty often. They're one of those inconsistent teams, probably a bit more consistent than the likes of Wolves and Leeds that we spoke about earlier, but they are one of those teams who are just as capable of winning games and losing games against pretty much anyone in the division, even one of the high flyers like Leicester. So I can see them getting something out of this game. They've certainly got the players to do so. And I think Leicester's midweek exploits in the Europa League will just take something out of their legs a little bit. As you say, it was quite a strong team for that. Wasn't a particularly rewarding experience to go there and draw 0-0. You'd probably say they're now a little bit in the driving seat, but they would have wanted the away goal in that tie, obviously. But yeah, I think that will just take it out of them. And Aston Villa have obviously had a good long break. I think it'll be 8 days break between games before they play, so they'll be fresher in the legs. I could just see that making a difference in this game to be a draw. On the form book, obviously Leicester deserve huge credit, and the form book points towards a Leicester victory. Most recently, obviously, that Liverpool win, but obviously recent victories over Leicester, Chelsea, Southampton since the turn of the year. Really impressive results, and away from home in particular, they've been really good. But yeah, just those European exploits are making me lean towards a draw. So we're both going for 1-1 in that one. Another huge game this weekend comes on Sunday, 4:30 p.m. It's Arsenal versus Man City. Man City, 17 games in a row now they've won across all competitions. It's incredible. 10 points clear at the top of the table. They've now played their games in hand. That came in midweek against Everton when they won 3-1 at Goodison Park. Just carried on that juggernaut rolling. It's just incredible form, isn't it? It's hard to see where that's going to stop. They're coming up to a really difficult run of fixtures in terms of Arsenal. Mönchengladbach away from home in the Champions League, an informed West Ham side, and then the Manchester derby. But even that, you'd say they go into all of those games as pretty firm favourites. The form they're in, it's just difficult to see where their winning run's going to stop. We both predicted Everton to get a point from that game in midweek, obviously, but Man City just carried on even without Ilkay Gundogan, who's been in such great form recently. Kevin De Bruyne came off the bench for that one. Sergio Aguero's nearly back. Just their strength and depth. They can lose Kevin De Bruyne, who was arguably the best player in the league last season. Certainly won the award for that. And still carry on winning games without too much effort and pretty comfortably. They're just they've obviously got off to a pretty poor start to the season, but right now they've built the momentum and they just look by far the best team in the country, don't they? So to come up against an Arsenal team, they usually enjoy themselves against Arsenal. Arsenal team in pretty, beat Leeds last time out with a good performance and good result going into that 4-0 lead. But even then, Arsenal's recent form was such that even at 4-0, Arsenal fans were a bit nervous. Then Leeds got 1 back, Leeds got 2 back, got denied a penalty, which could have been given on another day. Arsenal fans would not have been completely at ease until the ref blew his final whistle in that game, because they still felt they could have thrown it away after back-to-back defeats against Wolves and Aston Villa before that. It was a big win for them against Leeds. But even though they scored 4 goals, went 4-0 up, it wasn't entirely convincing. So yeah, I think Man City will go into this game as firm favourites for many, as much for their recent record against Arsenal as their recent record in general. Arsenal down in 10th place at the moment. They've won 10 games, but they've lost 10 games this season. And when you come up against a team as consistent as Man City are at the moment, only points to one result for me, I think. And, Man City's favourite result at the moment seems to be a 3-1 victory. And that's what I've gone for here. I think they're scoring goals pretty regularly, not keeping clean sheets as much in the last few games as they had been before that. And I think Arsenal, with Aubameyang getting that hat-trick against Leeds, seemingly now back in form. Bukayo Saka, obviously, in great form this season. I think they've got the tools to get a goal. But yeah, I'm backing Man City to win this one 3-1.
Yes, unfortunately, exactly the same in this one, 3-1. As you say, it's a result that City seem to like, don't they? I think the fact that Arsenal obviously play. I know Thursday, Sunday is not. It is a general turnaround for when you play Europa League football. But to go into the game against City, having played, away, it was in Rome, wasn't it? They played in Rome, didn't they, against Benfica? So, I mean, it was a strong team as well. As you mentioned, Saka. I mean, Saka, for me, I'm saying it one. I think he's unbelievable, Saka. I think he's an absolute, generational talent. I think he's fantastic. And as you mentioned, Aubameyang, I thought he struggled against Benfica, but last time out, obviously, as you're saying, the Premier League was really good and got his hat-trick. But yeah, I still think, Arsenal have lost 10 games this season. 10 league games from 24 is incredible, isn't it, when you think about the side that they've been down the league, sitting down in 10th at the moment. And I mean, it's just very difficult, isn't it, to back them to go and beat City. I mean, you look at the recent record between the two teams. Obviously, semi-final of the FA Cup, Arsenal beat them, but the last Premier League win was not 6 years ago, which is it's very difficult, isn't it? City, obviously, they beat them 4-1 in the League Cup this season. At the Etihad, it was only 1-0, wasn't it, Manchester City, back in October. So it wasn't... I thought they were pretty much improved in that game, Arsenal. And I do think Arsenal they've certainly got big results in them and big performances in them. And they'll still be... I mean, they're not going to finish top 4 this season, but they'll still feel like they can maybe catch Liverpool. They're 6 points behind Liverpool. I still think Liverpool will finish in the top 4, but you're talking about Everton, Villa, teams like that. But Arsenal in and around maybe 8th or something this season, and it's just not good enough for me again. I don't think, I know that I said last week, I know they're building, but I still think they need to be, top 6, Arsenal top 7. But a lot of teams are obviously playing well this season. But yeah, as you say, City's winning run just been incredible. I think the way as you mentioned, I think last season, players like Bernardo Silva has come back into close to his best form. Obviously, Foden's been fantastic. He's getting more games. Mahrez has been really good recently. And now they've got Cancelo, who's come into excellent form, who took a bit of a time. Ruben Dias, obviously, Laporte played in the ahead of Stones against Everton, and just a dominant performance from a dominant side who are obviously going to win the league, 10 points clear of United, and probably fancy their chances of having a good go at the Champions League as well. Be very interesting, as you say, they play Borussia Mönchengladbach, as you say, a really good German side that can cause them problems, but I think City will be too strong for them. I think they'll beat Arsenal here. I think they'll go and beat West Ham, and I think they'll beat United as well. I say that, I think suddenly the wins start going towards 25 wins, which would be absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, I just think they'll be miles too strong for Arsenal in this game. And yeah, same as you, 3-1.
Yeah, the thing about Man City, which has been remarkable, is I think their best player each season seems to have dropped off the next season. They've been replaced by another best player.
Yeah.
De Bruyne, obviously, they've had to do without Laporte a few seasons ago. Bernardo Silva were just among their best players, and they just struggled to get in the team the following season. So they've just got a conveyor belt of talent there, which is helping them to win so many games in a row. And we're both backing that winning run to continue. Sunday at 7 p.m, we've got Manchester United versus Newcastle. Man United picked up a really good win in midweek, 4-0 away at Real Sociedad, all but confirming their place in the next round of the Europa League. And a really important victory to bounce back from that draw against West Brom, which was so disappointing before that in their most recent league game. Newcastle lost to Chelsea last weekend, pretty routine defeat that one. We both predicted the 2-0 scoreline. It seemed to scream that out. But a disappointing one after beating Southampton 3-2 before that for Newcastle to have hung on with 9 men in that game. They just didn't really put up as much of a fight against Chelsea. Not too many people would have been expecting them to get anything from that game, to be fair. And I think the same is true from this game. Do you see any chance for Newcastle to get something out of this game?
I mean, you'd hope not. I mean, speaking from a personal point of view, you'd hope not. But you've seen United, you've seen the bottom 2 recently take points off United. Sheffield United beat Manchester United and West Brom last time out in the Premier League. But yeah, as you say, obviously that we've said it a few times, haven't we, that teams have come into these games off the back of European wins. Obviously Liverpool, Leipzig, but United against Sociedad, obviously it's a completely different game to what it would have been if it was, in Spain, in San Sebastian with a full stadium. And it is obviously very, very difficult, but still, coming in with Sociedad side that had, won their last 2 in the Liga before this, sitting 5th in their table, it was still an excellent performance from United. And obviously Fernandes in great form again, but Daniel James was good. Rashford missed a couple of chances, but got his goal late on. And it was good to see, obviously, Amad Diallo, a player who's been spoken about a lot, come off the bench for his debut. And I think that the fact that it's an even more important result in the sense that United have got a really big period now. They play, obviously, you fancy they can rest players for the second leg. They then play Chelsea at the weekend and Manchester City after that. So the fact that they will be able to rest players, I mean, you still can't. Time's not over. So they had more than capable of, they get a couple of early goals in Old Trafford and suddenly you're a bit nervous, but he will be able to make changes. And I just thought the last Premier League game for United was really, really poor against West Brom. I think they did an awful lot, obviously levelled by an excellent goal from Fernandes, but the performance was just really, really poor against a side that United really should be beating. And I said it, didn't I? I still think everyone's talking about United, they're safe in the top 4. I don't think they're anywhere near being safe. As I mentioned, West Ham, 4 points. West Ham in 5th, 4 points behind them. Liverpool only 6 points behind them. And, Liverpool win this weekend. United drop points, which is, it can happen. United need to be very, very careful that they don't take their eye off, the ball in the Premier League. And this is a huge game to go and beat Newcastle. It's a nice game to go and beat a Newcastle side that, as we've mentioned, teams like Fulham, obviously West Brom, even Brighton above them will be hoping that Newcastle lose this game because they could get pulled into it. I mean, the gap is 6 points, isn't it, to the relegation zone? But as we know, that sort of gap can change very quickly, and their record against United is not very good at all. The last 2 Premier League games between the two sides have actually been 4-1 to Manchester United. So they've won at Old Trafford for, I think it's December 2013, the last time Newcastle won at Old Trafford in the Premier League. So a long time, but as I say, the performance against Sociedad was really good. You know, fancy Cavani will come back in as long as he's fit enough. There was a little muscular issue, but you fancy he'll come back in. Interesting to see who starts at the back. Obviously, Lindelof didn't play. It was Eric Bailly, and Lindelof got exposed in the against West Brom, and it's obviously an area that United need to strengthen. You know, without a doubt, next summer they need someone to go and play alongside Maguire. But yeah, really big game for United, and as you said, it was a routine win for Chelsea, and you'd hope that, well, you'd fancy it would be a routine win for Manchester United here in this game, because they really cannot afford to drop any more points certainly against teams like this ahead of a tough run. So yeah, I think Manchester United will win this 2-0.
Yeah, again, I've gone exactly the same. I might actually change that one up because we've gone the same a lot, and I need to make some ground in this prediction competition. So I'll go 3-0 Manchester United, and maybe I think I can't really see anything but a Man United win. Obviously, those recent games against Sheffield United and West Brom will give Newcastle a little bit of hope. But I think for Newcastle now, up until probably this weekend, there's always been an element of comfort about their league position. They're probably a safe buffer between them and the relegation zone, when that's not really the case. As we mentioned earlier, when looking at the Fulham game, very easily that gap could close to 3 points. So they're not really safe anymore. Whereas up until now, I think they have had that element of safety, which means, you know, that Callum Wilson injury has probably come at one of the worst possible times for them. We know how much of a difference he makes to them. I think he's contributed to a larger proportion of goals for them than any player has for any other team, or certainly he's up near the top of that list this season. So he's hugely important for them, and without him, not just their attacking threat, but their threat as a whole team, and their results as a whole team suffer a really big dip. So that's come a really bad time for them, and to be out for such a long time as well is huge for them. And without the likes of Callum Wilson in their team, it's just so difficult to see them getting results at places like Old Trafford. Away from home in any game, it's difficult to see them really even scoring, let alone picking up a result without Callum Wilson in their team. So that's how important he is for them. And as you say, Man United, they'll be desperate to bounce back from those drop points against West Brom. I think that one was probably the result which well and truly, I know many people would have said it wasn't realistic before, but I think that West Brom result was the one that well and truly cancelled them out of the title race and made Man City just clear, because obviously then in midweek they moved 10 points clear, having now played the game in hand. It's just very hard to see anyone catching them now. So yeah, I think Manchester United's main focus certainly now is securing that top 4 finish. And I think you're right in saying they're certainly not secure in that place. No one is secure in that place, obviously, apart from Man City at the moment. So this is a big game for them. And you mentioned that big run coming up. Obviously, the second leg against Real Sociedad, you'd hope that is in the bag for them. But then Chelsea and Man City in back-to-back Premier League games puts even more emphasis on getting the victory here. Any drop points here would be a real big blow, considering they're coming up to 2 games where maybe there'd be a lot more expected, certainly to drop points against Chelsea and Man City. So it's a big game for them. But yeah, I'm backing them to go 3-0. I've originally gone for 2-0, but I'll go for 3-0 to differ somewhat. On Monday night, there's a derby between Brighton and Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace coming into off the back of really disappointing successive defeats against Leeds and Burnley, conceding 5 goals, scoring none in the process. Again, it will come back to the Wilfred Zaha point, how poor they are. We just mentioned how poor Newcastle are without Wilson. Crystal Palace's record without Zaha is awful. Brighton, a good point against Aston Villa last time out, but they would have felt it should have been 3. Obviously, we mentioned Martinez's performance earlier, but Brighton, they're picking up points regularly. They're in really good form in the league. What is it now? 6 games unbeaten in the league, 3 wins, 3 draws in that time. I think it's only 1 goal conceded in that time as well. So they've really improved, edged themselves. Now 7 points away from danger. There is still work for them to do to edge themselves further clear, but they've got Crystal Palace and West Brom in the next 2, so they'll fancy their chances of picking up points here. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, as you mentioned, it's interesting, isn't it, to see, obviously Brighton have only lost 8 league games this season, which is, I was just looking through these, talking about Newcastle, a point behind them, lost 13. Obviously, too many draws has prevented Brighton from moving up the table, but as you say, you fancy the fact that they're only a point above Newcastle, but you just feel like Brighton will pick up more points in Newcastle. They've just got more about them. And, you mentioned their unbeaten run. You're even looking further back. They've only actually lost twice in the Premier League since the middle of December. And those two defeats have been 1-0 to Arsenal and 1-0 to Manchester City. So it just shows that they're, I do think that say they're a really good side. They've got a really good set of players, and they'll obviously be looking to go level on points with Palace here, which you thought similar to Newcastle, really, Palace, the sense that, you almost get this idea that they may be doing a little bit better than they are. And I think the fact they beat Wolves and Newcastle, didn't they, in back-to-back games, end of January, start of February, was really important, because if they hadn't won those two, they'd have been really struggling. Defeat at Leeds wasn't great, and then to lose 3-0 at home to Burnley. I mean, I know Burnley were good in that game, and Burnley, have improved going forward following a difficult spell. But I just thought Palace, to lose 3-0 at home to Burnley, there's ways of losing games, and you can't lose like that. And interesting period, as you say, as you mentioned earlier, talking about Fulham. They play Palace. Palace play Fulham after this one. Obviously, Fulham were desperate to win that game. Then Palace go to Tottenham, and the losses really could start, racking up at this stage. And I don't think they're 10 points above Fulham. Palace, it'd be very, very difficult to see them getting pulled into trouble, but it's not impossible. And I do think they'll slide down the table if they continue to pick up poor results. And yeah, I've gone Brighton here. I think as I say, they were good against Villa, against the Villa side that obviously will be pushing high up the league. And won back-to-back games against Tottenham and Liverpool. So yeah, good side Brighton, and I think they'll pick up a win here. I've gone 1-0.
1-0, yeah, I've gone Brighton as well. I've gone 2-0. I think they're I can see why you've gone 1-0, because goal-wise they're not scoring freely, and most of their recent wins have been 1-0. But Crystal Palace, you just can't look past their record. I think they will certainly be safe. I don't think they'll get dragged into it, because they've got the capabilities of picking up those wins every now and again, which they did against Wolves, which they did against Newcastle, which should be enough to keep them safe. They've got those, games in them that going into these next two games, you wouldn't be too surprised to go and see them win these two, and then West Brom in mid-March as well. They've got as well, so you wouldn't be too surprised to go and see them win those games. So I think they've got enough victories under their belts. And certainly between now and the end of the season as well, will add to that tally to be safe. But yeah, they are just one of those teams who you question where they're going, really. A bit of pressure's come on Roy Hodgson now. There was a banner outside the training ground, wasn't there, questioning his tactics. So yeah, the fans are starting to get a bit unrestful. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they respond to that for the rest of the season. As you say, they're probably in that bracket. They've got that safety buffer to the relegation zone, but that can quickly get eaten up. As I say, I don't expect them to get dragged into that, but it's certainly not out of the question. And yeah, I'm backing Brighton to go and win this one 2-0. I think Brighton's form points towards their victory here. Brighton obviously have drawn a lot of games, so it wouldn't be too surprised to see the spoils shared in this one. And obviously it's a big game for both teams. They both dislike each other quite a lot in this derby, so it's a big game for both of them, and often the form book does go out the table in derby matches. But yeah, I'm just backing Brighton to win this one. I think the way they've been performing recently and the results they've been picking up make them firm favourites for this one. They would have beaten Aston Villa last time out, but for a sensational goalkeeping performance as well. So yeah, I think they'll be firm favourites for this one, and we're both going for Brighton wins. We're also going to cover Tuesday night's game, the game in hand for both Leeds and Southampton. They play each other at Ellen Road at 6 p.m. on Tuesday. We've mentioned both teams, obviously, briefly in passing. Southampton go into the weekend with 6 defeats in a row against the Chelsea side in such good form. They'll probably be favourites for that to become 7 defeats in a row heading into this one, whereas Leeds are away at Wolves on Friday evening, so would have a little bit extra rest than Southampton. But one of those inconsistent teams. This is another one like the Wolves game that is pretty difficult to call, particularly not knowing what's going to happen at the weekend. Obviously, if Leeds go and beat Wolves, you'd probably put them as firm favourites to go and win this game. If Southampton go and beat Chelsea, which would be a huge result for them, you'd maybe say they would have stopped the rot, and the confidence will be starting to build towards the team we've seen earlier in the season, which was capable of picking up those big wins, as we saw against the likes of Liverpool, capable of beating some of the best teams in the league. So it's a very difficult one to call. Again, I went back and forth on it, as I seem to do with every single Leeds game so far this season. You just don't know what to go for, but in the end, I settled on 2-1 to Leeds. I did for this one.
Yeah, very, very close. I've actually changed it. I did go 2-1 Leeds, but I've just changed it to 2-2 in the end. I just think Southampton, they will, if they lose against Chelsea, obviously they say the losing run will continue, but they will end that at some point. They're not going to lose every game for the rest of the season. And Actually interesting, these two sides have not actually met since October 2012, not in any competition. That was in the League Cup, not met in the league since March 2012, and actually met in League One as recent as 2010. So it shows how far first Premier League game between these two sides since January 2004. So very interesting. It's not a fixture that's been played an awful lot recently, but it's one that, as you say, you hope it'll produce goals. I just think, as you say, it's difficult to know exactly what to expect because we don't know if players are going to potentially be out of this game or what's going to happen in their games. But the fact that Leeds will have a little bit longer to prepare for the game, obviously they're Southampton play Chelsea, don't they, on Saturday lunchtime? So, I mean, it's an interesting game, isn't it? You talk about, and I just think if Southampton were to lose against Chelsea, you'd fancy they'd drop a couple of places in the table. And if they were to lose again here, as I say, it's not out of the question that Southampton could finish 17th this season. And while that would not be, the worst thing in the world because it's not going to be relegated, I still think that'd be incredibly disappointing considering the set of players, the manager they've got there. And listen, I don't think they will finish 17th, but if they were to lose the next two, they'll certainly drop down in the table from 13th, and Leeds obviously will be looking up the table rather than down, only 2 points off Arsenal at this stage, who they, as you mentioned, lost to last time out. So yeah, really, really interesting game, one that you think will be open and you think both sides will fancy their chances of hurting them. They've both got, Bamford and Ings on opposite sides, two really good strikers who are having really good seasons, and both got attacking players that can harm the other, but both defensively can be suspect. So yeah, hopefully it'll be a good game. And yeah, I almost went same as you, but I just gone 2-2 in the end.
Yeah, Bamford and Ings, obviously both with England hopes as well. Yeah. So it'll be an interesting battle between them. But yeah, Matt's going for 2-2 in that one. I'm going for 2-1 to Leeds. Thank you as ever, Matt. We will be back next week for our next round of predictions. In the meantime, you can find previews for all of these games and many more over on sportsmile.co.uk. You can subscribe to this podcast on all the usual channels. You can also subscribe on YouTube to make sure you don't miss a single episode. And we hope to see you again next week. Thanks for joining.